to the plug-in Orlando. It's your boy Ramsey Razar, a.k.a. Sir Trend.
It's your girl Iva Pittman, a.k.a. Iva Fav. Your favorite to love, favorite to hate, but you always gonna make me your favorite.
Wait a minute.
That's it. That's Dr. Sass.
Will the Creative. I am the owner of Genuine Creative Agency.
And guess what? You get to plug in and get everything you need. What's going on? It is the third Wednesday of the month. And you know what time it is? The plug-in Orlando on Peace on the Street Radio. WOKB 1680 AM to all those 100,000 listeners on 100.7 FM. What's going on to our beautiful listeners? How you doing out there? You know what time it is. Who we got in the building today?
Woo, we got Dr. Ebony Rainey Hayes, a.k.a. Dr. Sass.
Dr. Sass.
You already know it's your girl Iva. We're back in the building. What's up?
Back in the building.
Bonjour. It's Will the Creative. I'm back in the building.
No. You back in the country.
Right.
Will been on. I'll tell you, Iva, Will, and Ms. Boss, they have special membership when it comes to going on tour. They travel the world. Dr. Sass, we got to catch up.
We do.
Y'all gonna do it.
We got to catch up.
We do. We have to catch up.
I don't know if our credit card's expired or I don't know what's going on.
Well, I don't know about that catch up. Mine don't expire. Okay.
Yo, Will, how was your trip?
It was amazing. I mean, it's definitely always good to. I mean, once you get the travel bug and going to see different places and just connecting with the locals of different countries, I mean, it's not something you can just turn off.
Yeah.
But it was just a great experience. The food was good. The language barrier sometimes are kind of shaky, but thank God for Google. But yeah, overall, it was a good experience.
I mean, did you learn a little French?
Oui.
Bonjour. Comment allez-vous? Ça va?
Très bien.
I don't know.
It's
Look, I don't know.
Well, could you at least say the plug-in Orlando in French?
Plug-in Orlando.
That sounds more Caribbean.
You know, I know somebody out there like, what in the world is happening right now? Yeah, it's the Plug-in Orlando show. You know, all those beautiful creatives, those dreamers, those entrepreneurs, those career goers. We just love every first and third Wednesday when you are plugging in with us because we definitely don't want you to get left out because we always have a lot of things that we're talking about, things to help you to at least understand not just the power of entrepreneurship or not just the power of you being a dreamer, but also understanding that, you have a gift, you have a dream, you have a purpose, and we're here to help you. And today we're actually talking about the value of creativity. Can we all share just some tips on the power of creativity? When you hear about that, the value of creativity, what does that mean to you, Iva Fave?
I mean, creativity in itself is valuable. Everything we do requires some sort of creativity. We are needed in every area, every aspect, every genre, every job, every person. There's some aspect of creativity that's required, so it's very valuable.
But it's funny that some people don't believe in creativity like that. Like, they don't see the value in that. So
It depends on who you are. You know me, I'm a perspective person.
come on.
So there's always different sides to things, and different personalities don't gravitate well to creativity. And creativity to some people can be like a bunch of like too much at one time, because to be creative, you literally have all these things in your head and trying to bring it to something, to bring it out.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on the person.
I mean, I believe everybody is creative in a unique way.
Yes.
And I think
agree.
I think if you really tap into yourself and you really understand the gift that you have, you can really see how your creativity can flow out of that, right? Creative?
Yeah. And usually, I mean, it's sad. Usually, like, creativity or the arts is usually the first thing to go when it comes to, like, budget-wise or statewide or whatever. Especially once things are functioning and flowing, people start not to see the value in it. But also, creativity and art is usually the thing that saves the day. It's usually the thing that people come together and just to give, like, a re-spark or a reignite. And it's sad because being a creative, I mean, I'm not as illustrative as I have a fave because she can draw out of this world. But it's just like, it's us as creatives, we need to see the value that we carry. There is a time where creativity has to take not necessarily a back seat because you need to be re-inspired again.
Right.
But there's always a need for creativity. And we see it in all the world. Like the paintings on the streets, or not just graffiti, but it's just like there's nowhere you can go without seeing some sort of creativity.
Are you talking about Paris?
I mean, if you want to go that route.
Can we see your social media, Mr. Do What You Love?
Yes.
But I mean, everywhere you go, there's a form of creativity, not just drawing, but even when it comes down to when, like, we all heard there was a bank or Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah,
that
two banks.
2 banks.
Oh, it's two?
2 banks.
Two
Oh,
banks.
I didn't hear
Yeah,
two.
because you've been out the country for 6 weeks.
Two
But-
banks.
But even in that, now they're going to lean on some creative person to figure out, well, how do we get out of this? You got to think of it in another way.
Yeah.
Because, again, life has its way of forcing you to reinvent yourself, even when a calamity such as a bank failing.
Come on.
How is that even possible?
And that's important that you said invent, like, because creativity is all about innovation. Everything we do is creative, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be here. It's like an illusion. Until something is real and plain and here, it's an illusion. But once
Yeah.
you bring it out, it's that creativity in physical form.
Yeah, and that's why I love being around creatives, because what it does is it challenges you. You know, it makes you think outside of the box, because even though we see ourselves normal, in reality we're not normal. Like,
Agreed.
we all have a different level of creativity, and I believe just like relationship has always been a form of currency, creativity is becoming that on a mega scale. You know, I think a lot of people should really tap into that. You know, it's going to be beautiful tonight because we got a special guest coming into the studio. We got Jaylen Christie. He's a writer, actor, cartoonist, PR pro. And let me tell you, he's going to talk about this awesome comic book that he has put together. And I'm telling you, on the Plug in Orlando show, we like to bring diversity. We like to bring something that you've never heard of before, but we also like for you to listen to the journey of that individual person. So we'll be right back with the Plug in Orlando right here on Peace on the Street Radio, WOKB, 1680 AM, 100.7 FM. Who's over there? Oh, we got a special guest in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, he just arrived, the writer, the cartoonist, the PR pro, the one and only Jaylen Christie. He's in the building, so we getting him together before we get into this interview. He's looking at me like, what just happened here? What's going on? But, you know, we're on the Plug in Orlando. I'm telling you, every first and third Wednesday, we are excited for you always tuning in to our amazing show right here on WOKB, Peace on the Street Radio, 100.7 FM. To all our beautiful listeners, we just want to say thank you. You can follow us on social media, the Plug in Orlando, and you can also check out our website, www.thepluginorlando.com. But we're going to continue with this beautiful show. We're going to start off. We've been talking about the value of creativity. And you heard some our mindset tonight from each person, from Iva Fave, the creative, Dr. Sass. But we're going to jump into Dr. Sass segment talking about entrepreneurship and creativity. Talk to us, Dr. Sass.
Yeah, so when I thought about entrepreneurship and creativity, of course it goes hand in hand, because entrepreneurship, and let's step back. When we talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about a full-time entrepreneur and part-time.
We talking about full-time.
Yes, full-time.
Full-time.
Full-time. It's anything that you do in entrepreneurship aligns with creativity, because you're working with something, a business plan, a vision to fulfill. So you have to be creative in anything that you do in order for it to stand against your competitors. You know what I mean?
Right.
So when you go into entrepreneurship, of course, you're thinking about what can I do different already. You're trying to be innovative and creative. So that's where that creativity come in at. But, of course, I'm going to always start with structure and systems. How can I make my creativity align with my plan so it can flow properly? Because, you know me, I can't function in chaos.
So your creativity is structure.
Yes.
I mean, that's a good creativity to have, 'cause girl, without structure, nothing can happen.
Nothing.
You know,
For me, at least.
I mean, for you, well, for me, I mean, I can work around not having a structure, but eventually you'll come back to having to build the structure, and you don't want to start from the back to the front, because that ain't gonna work when it comes to having the proper structure. You know what I mean?
Right, because I'm an executor. So I feel like with my sister in our business at Sassy Sisters, she has all these great ideas and vision, and she want to go from A to Z. I'm like, Jazz, come back. We got to go A, B, and C to make it happen, so we don't have to go back to A.
Right.
So I can give me something to work with, and I can make it work. Like, I can get real creative with it. But, yeah.
I mean, the steps are important, though.
Yes.
I mean, you know, a lot of people don't realize, like, in creativity, number one, there's a language, right? How we speak, how we move. And number two, there are strategies to how you really implement, you know, your creativity. Like Iva Fave, you do walls and what all that you do with your art as an artist?
Whatever.
It is not no whatever.
It is not no. I mean,
she go from canvas to murals. I mean,
that's humble.
It's with an artist, there is no set thing we can do. A true artist, like whatever we decide to do, create, like with our creativity, we can do it. So that's why I say whatever. There's no end to it, but I am learning. That's why I said she sounds like me, because with our mind, I'm more of a creative mind. I don't have a math mind, so we don't think steps. Like, even when I paint, I don't start with a foundation. I fill in shadows to create what I'm creating.
Wait. You feeling what?
Shadows.
Shadows, like you see that.
Yeah, so if I look at Will and decide I want to draw him, I don't start with that. I start with, like, the eye and the shadow of the eye or the shadow of the face and go like that. And then I started learning how to create the foundation and do it that way. So I learned both ways, because I'm understanding that having a plan and having steps is very important, because it can make it better.
So in your world, is there a method in y'all creativity on how you create an art, whether it's painting or drawing, sketching? Is there a method? What is that method? Because there's artists out there listening. They're like, yo, I have a favor. I hear what you talk about shadows. I'm over here like, shadows? I don't even see shadows.
No, but that's
I just
deep,
see a
man.
round head.
No, okay. So let me give a little bit of backstory. So when I went to college, first, you know, I wanted to be a WNBA player. Let's start there. Okay. So
You be balling.
Yeah, but then I got injured, so I had to find a plan B. Art was never supposed to be in the plan at all. It's just something that I had a gift in. So when I went to college, I just chose something. Okay, so that's the start of the backstory. So I had to learn how to make my art better, because it was never a plan, right? And I wasn't good with perspective. You know, my mind doesn't work with lines, and, you know, that's why I couldn't be an architect, because them buildings going to be crooked. So
praise God.
You know what I'm saying? It'll probably look good visually, but you know what I'm saying? It'll be leaning a little bit. So that wasn't for me.
That's
It
creativity.
is creativity. Code. It won't be up to code.
Talk about meet me in the bag.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
going down.
So thankfully, I had a very gifted and called professor who saw me and said, Ivy, you don't see it from this. You got to do it from this way. And that's how I learned the art of doing shadow work. And then I became a self-taught painter. So I started with charcoal and art classes, and then I taught myself how to paint. And from that, I just kind of built on and just learned and learned and learned.
That's
so
the whole word.
I'm telling you, we definitely going to be putting this one as a reel. So make sure y'all following the Plug-in Orlando to get this reel, because I'm telling you, I was saying something very profound.
Yeah.
Sometimes your dead end will cause you to sharpen your gift and your creativity.
Very true.
And
very
that's what it looked like. Jaylen, you can jump into this conversation, because we're
I
talking about entrepreneurship and creativity.
I wasn't sure.
Yeah, don't feel some type of way now.
It was so good, though. It was so good. Well, I just started my entrepreneurship, so I just launched my own comic book publishing company,
Nice.
Superfly Nerd LLC, and it's been immensely rewarding
Woo
so
woo!
far.
Yeah, I love that.
But with that, it's been an uphill journey of sorts, you know, having to learn how to run a business and do things of that nature. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Do you feel like, so because this is interesting, we were just talking about this outside before we walked into the studio, your entrepreneurship journey now and your creativity, how do you marry the two?
Ooh, okay.
That's a good question.
I feel like it uses either sides of your brain. So I think, I am creative. So when I'm drawing and illustrating and writing and developing, concepts and storylines and things of that nature, I'm using one side of my brain. But I have to detach from that when I have to morph into business mode. When it comes to working with, contractors or, developing signed documents or, working with the printer and finding individuals to help me, that I have to turn off the creativity hat and then put on another hat for sure.
I like the word you use, morph.
Yeah.
Will, did you feel that when he said the word morph?
I mean, honestly, yes, because I do that all the time. Because, I mean, it really is something that you have to transform. Like, your mind has to be able to shift or pivot on both sides, especially if you are doing the business and the creative content side as well, because sometimes even when in my creative process, like I describe it as like just throwing paint on the wall and whatever sticks, and then I build around that. But then going into the business side, like if I'm expecting people, like when you were saying dealing with contracting like that, they don't always connect with that. So I almost gotta like reverse engineer. Okay, this is how you do it. So now in my process, as I'm throwing paint on the wall, okay, I'm building like a step-by-step follow through, because if I want people to grab it, I don't want to hurt people.
Precisely.
It's like customer service. Because it's like, and that's one of the hardest things for me as a perspective person and that structural, like I explaining to somebody that business side, turning it off and on, and they don't understand
Precisely.
it. And I literally just had this whole conversation earlier with someone trying to explain them, like, just because they tell me, you don't know the industry, so you don't know what I'm saying. I'm like, no, I don't have to know the industry to understand business.
Get them straight. Get them
I
straight.
know business, so I know there's a perspective to your side of working for them, as opposed to actually knowing there is something going on that side of the business for them to delay.
So did anybody feel Dr. Sass when she said the word business?
I love it.
Like I felt like the B word, just like it was like somebody just put it as a bold. B word. Business.
You know me.
Say business again because everybody listening right
I'm
now.
a little extra. In business. Okay? I'm a little extra.
But that's why I love what Jaylen said earlier as far as morph. Because as a creative, you got to learn how to marry the two.
Precisely.
And how does it work in your favor? Communication.
Absolutely.
All you have to do is communicate. Now, not everybody's going to understand where your thoughts are coming from. And some people just have to watch at the end to see the beginning of what you have going on. You know what I mean? But we're going to get more into this conversation. Coming up next, we got I Have a Fave segment. Why is creativity important for this culture? Because we talked a little bit about it earlier, but we're going to dive deeper. And right after that, we're going into the one and only, our VIP guest in the house, Jaylen Christie. He's going to be talking about his comic book because we want to hear more about that. I mean, he's been on all platforms from West News and Jaylen, tell them all the platforms you've been on.
Oh my God, I've been blessed.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
That's that humble pie right there.
That's that humble. What you say, Jaylen?
Listen, blessed. Been on Wesh, been on WKMG. I've got another interview coming up with, oh my gosh, the Orlando Business Journal. But this by far is the best one that I've scored so far.
Well, that's because you're only on the plug-in Orlando, baby.
That's right.
Hey, listen, we going into some Afrobeat. We got Massey Luke right here on the plug-in Orlando. Peace on the Street Radio. WOKB 1680 AM, 100.7 FM. Don't get left out, baby. Plug in. Let's go. Look here on the plug-in Orlando. Look here. I'm having a good time back here. I'm telling you. We jamming, man. We jamming, and just enjoying tonight. Right here on the plug-in Orlando, man. I just love being on the radio every first and third Wednesday.
It's awesome.
Come on.
It's awesome.
Even though it's late, 11 o'clock at night, but we still be jamming.
Mighty God.
Mighty God.
Mighty God.
What a mighty God we serve.
Amen.
I'm telling you. But you know what? we the best to do it. Why? Because we still young, thank God.
Thank
Yes.
Right? We
Thank
still
God.
alive.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because dead people can't do this right now.
That's right. That's right.
Well, according to
Oh, Lord.
just playing.
Because I'm gonna be like, what is Will about to say?
Listen, he's about to say according to Paris. Because, that's what people do when they come back from Paris the same day they got to be on air.
Oh wow.
I'm telling you, really love to plug in Orlando to make your flight just in time to be on tonight.
Of course.
Good stuff.
Yes.
See?
Of
Shout out to
course.
Will.
You are creative. Creatives, we have no boundaries.
Well, true.
Huh?
But then when that catch up with you, you be like, Lord,
Amen.
what was I thinking?
Child, I got boundaries.
And
that's
I
one
don't
of
know,
them.
Randy. I don't know. I got a little boundaries.
Sometimes I struggle to sleep, man, because sometimes when you have, there's something as far as archiving your creativity. That has been giving me a little bit of rest.
Okay.
Because before I wasn't getting rest because I didn't know how to archive my creativity. I was always saying, God, why are you keep giving me more and more visions?
Yeah.
But sometimes if you're mature enough, you know that there's a season you have to archive them.
My mind.
Say that
until
again.
There's a
Yes.
season.
This is for the office, Ramsey. When we get back to the office,
You know
there's
what?
a season for
For
what?
the same person
There's
that's
a-
gonna be
He
up
just
to
spoke
board.
a word. He just spoke a word to
You
his
know
own
what?
self.
Yes.
I need to call PayPal credit card to see if I can fly you back to Paris.
God has a way of bringing it back to you.
Wow. You know what? You know
The
what?
call out is
Amen.
You know what? Now, when I see Will going to Foxtel just sent us a check for advertisement. But anyway, when I see you at Foxtel, I ain't going to be
God.
telling you nothing. But we got to get back into the amazing show we were just talking about earlier, just, entrepreneurship and creativity. And it's so crucial for this culture to understand that creativity is so important. Why is that, Ivor Fave?
Well, when I seen this, honestly, I'm like, really, Ramsey? Like, that's, really, Ramsey? Like, let's just be so for real. Like, creativity, like, without it, I don't think we can really make it. Let's just be real, right? So let's just start with our health and wellness. You got yoga, you got therapy, you got all of these things that help with your health and wellness. Then you got with your businesses, you have the marketing aspect, you got the PR aspect, you got like your presentations, you need the creativity. Then of course you got what people think creativity is, with your regular fine arts, with the dance, with the acting, with the singing. It is so important to the culture. It helps cultivate the culture. It helps create
Yes.
those entrepreneurs, because you have those, like, doctor over here. She is the perspective. She's the logic. She's the business, but she's going to call on the creativity for
Is
the
this girl
marketing.
preaching?
She going in.
She know my life.
She found her lane and went all the way.
Listen.
on this answer
I
right
wish
here.
they were in the studio so they can see her hand moving. I mean,
She know my whole life. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, she's gonna call on us to set it up, the video. She needs the
Yes.
commercial. She
I'm
needs,
hiring the experts.
she needs she needs the setup. She needs the photography. She needs those shots for her website. Website building, website development requires creativity. The coding, it is so vital to every aspect of living. We cannot do life without creativity.
ooh, girl, that's a whole reel
That's
right
a
there.
shirt.
Listen, I already.
Ivan, if you don't do nothing with it, come on, girl.
Listen,
t-shirt.
that's
What
a
was
whole
the word? I
forgot.
We cannot do life without
creativity.
creativity.
You need like a buzzer. Brr, 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 brr. Brr, 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 brr.
Right.
Come on.
Social media.
Listen, you can't do life in marriage without creativity. My God.
can't.
It was the linkage of everything for me.
Yeah, like
She went from
Bam, 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 bam,
here
bam,
to
bam.
And looped it all together effortlessly.
effortlessly.
Thank you, because it's a reality.
Come on,
It's a
talk that
reality.
talk.
We,
Right
you
now.
said morphing into from business to the creativity, it all comes together. We all need each other.
Yes, we do.
So when they're saying, "Oh, you don't understand," I don't need to understand that part. That's where you are. That's what you do. You're
That
the
part.
talent. You're the gift. My job is to make sure the business side is done.
Is running.
So once we're partnered together, we're going to create something beautiful. So it's
Absolutely.
very vital to everyday living.
Yes.
Your work life, your personal life. It's needed, period.
That leads into Jaylen Christie, the VIP guest tonight. I mean, man, you got a heavy moment to fill in because we weren't expecting Ivor Fave to give us the Steph Curry shot. You know what I mean?
That's a tough act to follow.
But
Not
man,
at all.
just to hear her talk about how important it is for the culture to embrace creativity. Now that you're an entrepreneur and you're on this journey, and as an African American,
Yeah.
comic book. You're changing the game like Black Panther. Talk about that.
I'm trying. So when I was a child back in the 90s, which wasn't that long ago, because, black don't crack. Black don't crack.
Unless you do crack.
We can tell by your hairline you still young, baby.
I try. I do what I can. But when I was a child, there weren't a lot of superheroes that looked like me. I mean, you had the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I always wanted to be Zack the Black Ranger back in 1993. Let's go Zack. Mastodon power, all right?
Yes.
But aside from Zack, there were no other, black and brown superheroes. True. So when I was a kid, I created homemade comic books and wrote short stories for my friends and my family members. And as a child, I didn't mean for the content to be taken seriously at all. I was a kid, so I created these characters named Stink Bomb Man and the Brain Kids. And I created the Brain Kids when I was in the first grade and Stink Bomb Man when I was in the third grade. And then they just stuck with me over the years because friends of mine as I aged would always ask for me to create something with those characters. And then once I got older, I was like, let me see if I can revisit the well, so to speak, to see if there's something that I can develop. And one of my fraternity brothers indicated that, now of all times is the right time for there to be more and more content centered with black superheroes because black and brown children need to see that. So I took those characters that I created as a kid and then updated them for a 2023 audience, and that's where I'm at today.
And what was that journey like creating every character? Because every character has a story. Yeah. Tell us the method or the processes that you had to go through to channel into creating those characters.
Sure. So when I was a kid, I created the Brain Kids, Brittany McBrilliant and her brother Jesse McBrilliant. They have no superpowers whatsoever, but they're just really, really smart. So they use science, technology, engineering, and mathematics to save the day. That's right, STEM.
Yes.
All day.
Come on, STEM.
Yes.
So they use their aptitude to fight crime. Whereas with Stink Bomb Man, he is an alien from the planet Stinkopolis. He's an intergalactic peacekeeper. So instead of using fighting methods, he's not going to, punch you or kick you. He uses stink bombs to defuse a situation because he's a peacekeeper, all right? So Stink Bomb Man and the Brain Kids joined forces to investigate the mysterious disappearance of the Brain Kids' father, Dr. Jeffrey McBrilliant. But when it came to developing those characters when I was a kid, it was easy. But when I updated it for a 2023 audience, I realized I needed to give them a backstory, make them more interesting, I know that when it comes to superheroes these days, female superheroes are still underrepresented. So I made Brittany McBrilliant the main character in the story. So I thought that little girls would be able to look up to her. Really emphasize the fact that, black children can be just as smart and that they don't need anyone to save the day because they can save it themselves.
Come on.
So,
yeah.
That deserves
that
a
went.
snap.
Well, I appreciate that. So that's kind of how I developed it. Yeah.
And y'all see the way Jaylen walked into the studio?
He fit right in. He plugged right in.
He plugged right on in. He's so humble.
Yes.
And how long I've been knowing you now?
It's been a minute.
It's been
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah.
And to see this journey come to life, it's just it's beautiful. So, have you dealt with any controversy with your project?
Controversy. I don't think I've necessarily dealt with anyone point blank, but I was warned, given what's going on in Florida with Governor DeSantis and, how he's cracking down on diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of my teachers that I had back in high school, she ended up being the editor of the comic book before it was published, and she is now a principal. So she gave me a heads up that, I think that what you're doing is great. I really think this is going to be inspirational to a lot of black and brown children, and not just black and brown children, but, children in general. But she was like, given what's going on with Florida, you may face a little bit of difficulty getting this into the schools. Having said that, God is good because there have been 3 schools that have already reached out to me and have asked me to come and speak to their students.
Love it.
So
That's where it starts.
That's beautiful.
Right.
And how do you feel, Jaylen? Like, does this moment make you feel more alive to the purpose God has assigned you to?
I think so. Because we were talking about, business and entrepreneurship earlier. So my profession, my background is public relations and communications. And even though I've been blessed in that field and have, won awards and accolades, at the end of the day, that's not what I wanted to do. When I was a child, I always wanted to either act or draw or write. I took the job in PR because, you grow up.
Security.
Precisely.
Yep, I got you, bro. I'm with you.
Exactly it. But what happened was I was never really fulfilled doing PR. So even though to other people, they were like, "Oh wow, Jaylen, you're doing," it never brought me joy. I didn't get joy until I started working on this comic book. So to answer your question, I think that now I'm finally walking in my purpose. But it's interesting how things work out because God works in mysterious ways. Those 10 years that I was working in PR and was feeling down about, oh God, why haven't I been able to do my comic book? Those 10 years, I was able to make relationships with reporters and producers, develop my skill sets, know how to market myself, know how to formulate a press release and a pitch. So when it came time to market and promote my comic book, I didn't have to hire anyone. I now had to develop the skills to do so.
That was going to be my question to you.
How
did that tie? Because it always do.
Yeah.
God has a funny way of tying things back into
Absolutely.
So much
your
Absolutely.
purpose.
That's right. That's right. And I didn't realize it at the time because I was like,
We never do.
We never do. We never do. And then when it was time for me to promote my comic book, that's when I was like, oh, I see what God was doing the whole entire time.
Yes.
I get it.
So I have a
Yes.
question. So with you mentioning the acting aspect, do you feel like this comic book can possibly turn into a short film?
Oh, that's the plan, my friend.
Okay.
We thinking big. All
Yes.
right? I want Happy Meals. I want Lego sets.
Let's
I
go.
need Disney or Universal to contact me for a ride.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
let's go. All of that.
I love that.
Yes, yes, indeed.
But here's the power to the moment, though. I mean, that's why everybody in this room has to connect in such a unique way. I have a fave, you're an artist. Will, you do graphic designing.
Nice.
Dr. Saz, you do structure from proposals to business. It really help establish the structure of creativity. And I'm just a dreamer. So, but once again, it just shows sometimes you never know the seasons that you never know why you're in the season that you're in.
Precisely.
Because 7 years ago, it was archived.
Yeah.
We never had this conversation.
Right.
It was along the journey I've seen just Jaylen just transform into his creativity.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. And it's crazy because I didn't even putting the show flow together, I didn't even think about you being in. I literally forgot about this show tonight.
Yeah.
Dr. Saz was like, hey, don't forget we're on air tonight. I said, holy moly, we are. But when I was putting the show flow, I didn't even think about the value of creativity, knowing that you're going to be here. Because look at the value that you're bringing to
Yes.
creativity.
Yes.
Thank you.
So
Look at God.
to all those listeners out there, what motivation could you share with them from Jaylen Christie, the writer, the cartoonist, the PR pro? What could you share with them?
I think that I would be able to share, that I can share, is to be tenacious. And what I mean by that is every time I share this story with other individuals, I can't tell you how many times there have been people that have come back and have said, Jaylen, I've had my own dreams that I've put on the back burner, or I've had other things that I've aspired to be or other things that I've wanted to accomplish. But seeing you, complete your passion project has now motivated me to do the same. I have a friend of mine that wanted to be, she wanted to be a model. She went on an audition maybe 10 years ago and was told no, and that crushed her. And then once she saw that I published my comic book, she reached out to me via Facebook and said, you know what, you've just given me inspiration to re-pursue my dream. So I think that, a dream deferred is not a dream denied.
Come on.
So if you have a goal, or if you have something that's in your head that you feel like you haven't been able to tap into just yet, write it down. I think there's a passage in the Bible that says what? Write it down and make the vision plain.
Yes.
You already know.
Habakkuk. Yes.
That's right.
I got it tatted over so I know it's real.
That's right. So by all means, if you have to put a vision board together, or what I did was I wrote it. I don't know if you've seen the TV show Being Mary Jane with
Mm-hmm.
Gabrielle.
Gabrielle
my
Union.
God.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
And she would
One of my
write
favorites.
it down on post-it cards and put it around, her house. I wrote down my goals on a post-it card and I slapped it on my bathroom mirror. That way, every day I would see it and would keep it in my head. So I can't tell you how good it felt to go back to that post-it card, that post-it note, and cross my comic book off of the list.
Wow.
So tenacity, being tenacious.
Yes.
And how can people purchase your comic book, and how can people follow you? Give all your social media tags, and how can people get connected with you?
Sure. So Stink Bomb and the Brain Kids is available on my website, JaylenChristie.com. That's JaylenChristie.com. In a few weeks, it will also be available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. But I would, prefer you purchase it from my website.
The website.
Yeah. Come on.
Direct.
Just go direct to the website.
Profit first.
Say that website again for those listening.
JaylenChristie.com. And then also, I've been encouraging individuals to follow me on Instagram at the Superfly Nerd, because I am a nerd. I'm a blurred. I wear it proudly.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly updating my Instagram regarding updates pertaining to the comic book.
With that being said, Creative, I just need you to drop 5 tips of creativity. I know you came from Paris. Number 1, I know the first one might be exposure, just flying somewhere. But just share some 5 tips real quick.
Okay, bet. So definitely leading with exposure. You definitely, as a creative, you definitely want to be in an environment that will allow you to be inspired, like almost like you walking through the Louvre and seeing the Mona Lisa, even though it wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be. But you want to put yourself in an environment that you can be inspired. Number 2, also always know that the creativity is already in you. Like, though you're being inspired with number 1, you're not called to be a carbon copy. You got to pull from within yourself so you can do it. Number 3, just throw the paint on the wall. Don't think too much about it, because if you think too much, you're never going to start. Number 4, blah blah blah. Number 5, blah blah blah. Just be creative and just know that it's in you. Like, everybody has a different form of creativity, but if you can just operate with what you have instinctively in you, it's almost like if you're about to get hit by a car and you move out of the way. It's the same thing with creativity. If you're in a situation, not by hit by a car, don't be hit by a car. But your reflexes, like whatever your reflex is, like lean into that. Yeah. Like, creativity is fun. Oh, there you go. Oh, so you were being creative. Okay, I get it.
But
AKA
we don't have a chance to talk about it right now, but y'all know they had the Vanity Affair and the creativity that was on that red carpet. Oh. Lord knows. There's a lot of creativity out in this world. But we're not going to get into that. We got to go. We know.
We'll be back, though.
We know we don't want to unplug.
First and third.
But we got to go. Every first and what, Creative?
First and third.
Every first and third. Everybody drop your name. Let everybody know who's on.
Will the Creative?
Dr. Sad.
I have a fave.
Jaylen Christie.
And this is Sir Trends on WOKB 1680 AM Peace on the Street Radio. The Plug in Orlando 100.7 FM. To let this night out, we're getting ready to plug into Bless Me by Maverick City. Let's go!
Oh! Love you, Miss Boss.
Let me plug you in, plug in, don't get left out, time to plug you in. Get plugged in, don't get left out, time to plug you in. We gonna plug in, don't